with you, especially being so far away. So again, just want to thank my mother and all the other organizers who have made this retreat possible and to give me this opportunity to share this morning wisdom with you all from here in New York. I didn't sit down and think too much about what I was going to share until, the minutes leading up to this moment. And the theme that has been resonating really strongly with me in my personal life, and I think with many people here in this group, is the reality of acceptance. And that's the theme that I would like to share with you all here today and dive into it and unpack what is acceptance? Why do we need it? And how could we live our lives a little bit more fully with a little bit more acceptance? So acceptance is a very interesting one because from the time, we're quite young, we go to school, we're striving to do things to get better grades, to get into a good college, then to get into a good job. And at every single point from the time you think about your early childhood till probably still now, you're wired in a way where you're told to put effort in and to make things happen and study harder and get a better job and do this and do that. And that ultimately creates this big subconscious wiring that the only way for life to get better is to do more, which is true in many ways. And we see that happen, obviously, in many material senses. But at the same time, that makes the whole concept of acceptance so foreign to us and so unnatural when all of our life is focused on doing something. The what innate effortlessness of what acceptance should be is not innate to us anymore. The same way the innate stillness of doing nothing in meditation should be so natural. But for many of us who sit down for the first time in meditation, we feel how unnatural it feels because we're so wired to be doing things all the time. And that same parallel is actually drawn to our overall life. When we talk about meditation and we talk about mindfulness, one of the big principles that we share all the time is that the point of meditation is not to meditate. The point of meditation is to practice building that muscle of doing nothing so that when we go into our real life, our jobs, our relationships, our communities, whatever it is, we're actually better at being more present in those moments. And it's the same way that acceptance is really, I think, the truest manifestation of your meditation in your real life. Of can you accept things as they're happening without feeling the need to do something, to change something, and exert your will on all the forces that surround you? As we experience each of these moments in life that we don't like, that make us uncomfortable, that make us sad, that make us stressed, our natural response is not to accept those things. It's what can I do? How do I change this? Who do I call? How much more money do I need to fix this? Because as I said, that's the way that we've been wired. But if you look back throughout your life and you ask yourself, did that make you happier? Maybe temporarily it did, but then I'm sure you probably faced the same situation again 3 months later, 6 months later, a year later. And then what did you have to do? Muster up all that force, all that will, and face that situation again. And when you actually take stock of your life and you reflect, you will realize that all this will and force that you're applying in many ways is putting band-aids over solutions temporarily to help us get through this moment we feel we need to get past, but hasn't actually addressed the core and it hasn't actually created a measurable change in your overall happiness in a stable, predictable, elevated way. If you just take a moment to reflect on what even life is, you realize that every moment of every day from the time you're born to the time you pass away, all you're trying to do is to be okay, just to get past the next uncomfortable moment. You're earning money so you can put food on the table so you don't have to be hungry. You want to buy a nicer house. You want to buy nicer clothes. And I'm not even talking about materialistic things. I'm just saying when you're lonely, you want friends. When you feel that your health is not doing well, you want to try and see what you can spend money on to get the best health trainers and medical care or whatever it is. There's always something that's making your life uncomfortable in this moment that you're striving to make it different. And at some point, I truly believe you have to take stock and ask yourself, is that the way you actually want to live and can live life throughout the whole life? And even if you can, do you really think that that is the best approach to maximizing your happiness? So I want to dive into this in a few different layers. Why? Let's start with actually what. What do we actually control? Because before I think we understand acceptance, I think it's important to become self-aware of what are the aspects of our life that we're trying to control. And as we become more aware of those, then we can decide, should we be doing this? Is this the most logical thing to do? And if not, what might be? So I think the most obvious thing that we try to control is the people around us. Anybody who makes us uncomfortable, anybody who says something that we don't like, anybody who treats you with disrespect, whatever it might be, even your partner. You might want more love and affection from your children. You might want them to do something on time the first time you told them. You're always expecting things of other people. And this creates inherent friction because anytime you set an expectation for how somebody around you should behave, and that expectation is not met, you are going to feel unhappy. If you just think about the last 24 hours, I promise you there will be somebody who didn't meet your expectation and you felt unhappy about it. That is, I think, the first thing. People around us. Then we can talk about jobs. We can talk, for example, you're trying to make sure that you stay in the job that you have. You're trying to make sure that you don't get fired. You're trying to make sure that you get the promotion that you deserve. Or in terms of relationships, you want to make sure that your partner is behaving in a way that you always wanted them to behave in. Or the fact is you do all these nice things for your partner. You just wish that they would take the time to do something that, or maybe you're always the one picking up the kids from school. You just wish your partner also did something. There are expectations around people. There are expectations around jobs. There are expectations around everything in our life. But if we look at those expectations of the people around us that we have, we just need to think about what can we do? Well, we could go around telling these people that they are not meeting our expectations, that they've disappointed us, that they should have done X, Y, Z. And honestly, sometimes that may help. But I come back to putting the Band-Aid over the problem. This is not about not communicating, and there's obviously a good reason and a time and a place and everything to communicate. But beyond all the communication, bottom line is that person may do the same thing the same time again. Even if that person doesn't do it, some new person will come into your life and do the same thing. And it's impossible to control every possible person you meet and make them act in a way that you are going to be perfectly happy with every second of every minute of every day of your life. And that is really the root of all suffering. And that's the root of all the challenges we have in our life. That people act in ways that we don't want them to act in. And with all the meditation you do, you become upset. You become angry. You become annoyed. You become depressed because the world around you is not happening the way that you wanted it to. When you woke up this morning and you came to this retreat yesterday and you were thinking that this retreat should happen in a particular way, or you're hoping that when you go home from this retreat and you share something that you learned, people will look at you and go, wow, that was so amazing. And if they don't look at you that way, or if they ignore you, I promise you're going to be annoyed. All of this is, as I said, coming back to expectations and how those expectations are broken. We need to start looking at ourselves and asking ourselves the question, is this a way to live our life? And I say this because to me, spirituality is accepting reality and accepting truths and living those truths. So I ask myself this one question. I want you, each of you, to ask yourself this question. If you believe you're on a spiritual journey and you want to accept those truths, no matter how hard those truths are, do you think it is possible to control and change every single person that you'll ever meet in your life to be conducive to your expectations? And if you don't think that's the case, because I would assume that's probably most, if not all of you, it's definitely me, then the only logical question to ask yourself is, well, what should you do about it to maximize your happiness? Because changing other people around you is impossible. And it comes back to, that's why acceptance is so critical. Acceptance is the truth that the most rational thing to do for your own happiness is to focus on yourself. That controlling the outside world, while it may give you a temporary satisfaction, somebody says sorry to you because they did something wrong. Somebody starts behaving in a way that you wanted them to, your partner to pick up your kids. You tell them, they do it. Now you're happy. But you're only happy because that expectation is met. And when that expectation gets broken again, you're going to go right back to being unhappy. So I said, spirituality is the journey of accepting reality, asking yourself, what is true? And accepting and living those truths. And I think one of the hardest journeys, and I don't say this as somebody who's fully mastered this either, but one of the truths that I'm on my journey of accepting is that people aren't always going to act the way that you want them to. And having expectations around that is just setting yourself up to be miserable. And acceptance is really the journey of being okay with that. Being okay that things aren't going to be the way that you want them to be. We will get to a later stage where you're not even having expectations. We're not there yet. I'm not there yet. But let's just start with the basic point of you have expectations, fine. But when those expectations are not met, can you be okay? If somebody behaves in a way that makes you upset, makes you depressed, makes you sad, can you still be okay? Because if you can't, and if your happiness is relying on somebody else around you to change their behavior, you're setting yourself up for temporary moments of happiness in your life, with the rest just being unhappiness and misery instead of the reverse. We forget that we came here, this world that we live in is a playground in many ways. And we say this a lot when we talk about a lot of these concepts, but I think we truly forget to live that concept of this world is a playground. Because if it is truly a playground, then accept with joy whatever happens. When you're playing with your friends as a kid, it's not a scripted game. It's not like you do this, somebody else does that, and everybody has to do it exactly this way. That's not fun for anybody. Except when we get older, we forget that, and we kind of say that, look, if everybody doesn't play the role as per my direction, then I'm not going to be happy here. And that's not what life is. Life is a beautiful mix of different people. And that's the key thing. It's different people. Every single person here has a different lived experience. People were raised in different countries. People experience different relationships with their parents. People have different understandings of what's completely fine for one person might not be completely fine for another person. So the expectation that everybody should act the way that you act is just a reality, it's just an assumption that is flawed and is going to make you more and more miserable if you hold on to it. What's even worse is if you hold on to this thing that people should act the way you want to act, because the reality is we know is we're not perfect either. So forget about acting the way that we act. If you want people to act the way that you want them to act at this idealistic level, that's definitely not going to happen. And this comes back to, can you be okay? Can you accept that people aren't going to be the way that you want them to be and still be okay? The challenge here, that in theory, all of this sounds fine and everyone's like, yeah, acceptance makes sense, etc. When you have to live it, it becomes so hard. And I think the most common reason that I struggled with, and I know a lot of people that I speak to struggle with, is this sense of self-righteousness. The sense of self-righteousness is this idea that you are completely right. For example, imagine your partner speaks to you in a very sharp tone and you did nothing. And you're telling yourself, I did nothing. I was living my day. I didn't say a word to my partner. And they came out of the blue and spoke to me in a particular way. I'm in the right. They're in the wrong. How dare them? They should not have spoken to me that way. They need to do X, Y, Z, etc. for me to be okay. You may be completely right, but it doesn't change what we talked about just a second ago. That you not accepting the situation and them with all their flaws is what's going to make you miserable. And the self-righteousness trap I call it a trap because when we feel we're in the right, we feel we're justified in holding on to our grievances and waiting for the other person to act in a way that is consistent with what we want because we're right. It's often easier for us to accept things when we know, what, actually, I shouldn't have done something or I shouldn't have said that. And it's easier for us to accept those moments because we feel, yes, I crossed the line. But the harder moments are the moments where you feel you have done nothing wrong, where you feel you deserve to be treated a particular way, and therefore the other person has to do X, Y, Z. And this becomes really challenging because you keep telling yourself, you're right, you shouldn't have done anything, but you're holding on to this grievance, you're holding on to these moments that just make you miserable. And this comes back to the question that I'm asking. What's the journey that you're on? If the journey that you're on is to focus on how do you be happy? How do you be happy consistently? How do you maximize your own happiness despite what's going on in the world around you? Then I'm telling you, you have to also make peace with your self-righteousness story. Because whether you're right or whether you're not right, who cares? Again, I talked about a version of this in our Science of Happiness series. The question I ask yourself here is, do you want to be right or do you want to be happy? Because people are different. People are stupid. People are whatever. People are chaotic. It's just, even if you're right, there's nothing that you can do to change people around you. So the question of acceptance then becomes, can you accept other people behaving in a way that's flawed? Because that's what we are. We all are flawed, and people around us are flawed. And some people are outright rude, and some people are malicious. And that is just what the world is. Can you be happy despite that? And I say this knowing it's not an easy question. It's a question that I struggle with a lot, but it's a question I keep coming back to and reminding myself that for me to be happy, my happiness is in here. My happiness is not out there. If I link any part of my happiness to what is happening around here, I'm setting myself up for failure. And the quicker I can rip off that band-aid and say, I don't need people to act a particular way around me. I don't need people to do a certain things. I don't need the world around me, my job, whatever it is, to be the way that I want it, even if I'm right. I'm still going to be okay and accepting that. Because again, I'm not asking you not to have expectations. I'm not at that level. But what I'm saying is when those expectations are broken, even if you are right, can you be okay? That's it. Can you be okay? Can you accept that the world is complicated, that people are complicated, and things that happened. Whether you like them or not, they happened. All that you can choose is how you relate to that moment. And I say this relate to that moment because it's very interesting what happens with our mind. We have a huge negativity bias. So your day, you could have been going through the day, you go into work, somebody says, hey, John, really good job on the project that you submitted last night. Somebody else comes up to you at the coffee and he says, I really like the suit that you're wearing. 5 hours later, somebody comes across and says, hey, it was so nice to meet you. We want to invite you to our house again for a party that we're having this week. Everybody that spoke to you said that you were so fun, and you can hear all these compliments. If one person in that day, though, does something that you don't like, or says something negative to you, or scratches your car, or whatever it is, all of that positivity out the window. And all you're holding on to is that thing in your mind. And you see this all the time. It's called the person in the crowd. You know, if you're giving, like performing music or you're giving a speech in front of a crowd and one person boos, even though there's 1,000 people there, that means, 999 people loved your work. You will focus on that one person who booed because that's where our brain goes, and it holds it, and you take that with you and you internalize it, and you're sitting there for the next day, week, whatever it is. Why did that happen to me? I didn't deserve that. This shouldn't have been this way. It comes back to, can you accept that? Can you accept that the world isn't going to be the way that you want it to be all the time? Because that's where true happiness is going to come from. Happiness is going to come from you giving yourself permission to be okay when things don't happen the way that you want them to be. Be okay and focus, take yourself away from that negativity bias of that one thing that may be going wrong and going, you know what? I'm going to take the big picture. How do we do this? This is where all the things that we've been talking about through the BYM, I think, come together to help us. Number one, meditation is critical for all these tools because meditation gives us a moment to stop the mind spiraling, to stop us creating these negative thoughts that just take us into nowhere but misery, and just let's just start by seeing the situation and the world as it is. And to do that, we need clarity and we need a bit of mental space. Gratitude, super helpful, because what gratitude does is helps take away that negativity bias. It forces you to remind yourself all the good things that have also happened in this day, to give yourself a more complete picture of how your life is in a given moment, because your brain is naturally predisposed to that negativity bias. Acceptance is also coming from a deep place of strength. And I say this because if anybody has children, if your children are throwing a tantrum, saying, Daddy, I want this ice cream. I only want this ice cream. You have to buy me this ice cream. And then they're in a shop and they're just crying and causing a scene and everything. There's two people. There's you and the child. And that child cannot be okay in that moment unless they feel that if I don't get this ice cream in this moment, my life is going to collapse. And you as a parent, probably thinking, this is not ideal. I don't want this situation. But I'm sure you've been in a situation you're like, whatever, I'll just buy the ice cream. It's not the end of the world. I'll move on with my life. And you do that because you can see that this person, this little entity, has not fully emotionally matured. And you're like, I am the bigger person here. And I can take it. My day's not going to be ruined just because my kid threw a little tantrum. Because you're just like, that's just them. I can still be happy. And you move on with your life. The challenge is when that kid is no longer a kid and is a fully grown adult that's behaving in a way that you don't like, then we struggle to do that same thing. Because we go, why is this person doing this? They shouldn't be doing this. They should be behaving another way. And all those things may be true. But you not accepting that and not focusing yourself creates this huge emotional turmoil and trauma that you carry with you for days, hours, weeks, that you would not have done when you just go, hey, that's just them. That's just this little kid going through their moment. I can't control that. And one of the techniques I think really helps is recognizing that despite the fact that people grow up, people still have their inner child, as we know, we talked about in inner child workshops, that people are working through. Somebody could be 60, 70 years old, but still have issues that they still have not fully formed. And recognizing that is not to do with you. And accepting that that is their trauma, their problem to work through. And yes, it may lash out to you. And yes, they may behave with you in a way that for a moment takes away your peace. But being able to go, whatever, accept it and move on, despite that, not expecting them to change and be the way that you want, is what helps us get better at living our life. I know I say this, and the reality is this is very hard when that somebody is your partner, it's your family, when it's your colleagues, it's very hard because you're interacting with these people every single day. So I'm not saying that this is not without effort. The principle, the beauty of a principle is that a principle is true regardless of the circumstance. It just might mean that in those circumstances, it's going to be harder to remind ourselves of this, but it's even more important to remind ourselves of this. The ways in which we can help ourselves get closer to acceptance, though, is to make acceptance a daily practice by starting small with little things like in everything and working our way up over time towards the bigger things. So that might mean, right now, you might struggle to show acceptance towards your partner. You might struggle to show acceptance towards your family members or your colleague or your boss, because those are very heavily charged relationships that you interact with all the time. However, start by accepting the things that take away our mental peace on the day-to-day. For example, if it's raining today and you wanted to go out and you're like, oh my God, I was just so annoyed. I was hoping today was going to be sunny. Just start by accepting those small little moments. Oh, it's a rainy day. Let's just see why does the fact that it rains have to take, it's such a simple, obvious question, but it's something that I know I've also been like a victim of, if you want to use that phrasing, the change of weather or whatever it is, somebody arriving late somewhere. These are things that don't matter, but we ruin our happiness. But if we start by applying the principles of accepting it in these small moments that don't have much consequence, you're going to get better at experiencing what it feels like inside to live a life where you are so empowered that you can accept what's happening around you. And again, I say the word empowered because, like I said, the parent and the child example, who is empowered in that situation? The kid is not the empowered person. The person who has all the power is the parent who is able to say, it's okay, you throw your tantrum, I'm still going to have a good day. That's the person who is empowered. But being that empowered person in all your moments of life is the journey that we want to work on. And you start there by doing it in these small micro moments. We do it by doing it with the weather, when somebody comes late, when we book a reservation at a restaurant and they cancel on us without telling us, or whatever it is. These micro moments that usually are going to cause annoyance, frustration. Can you smile and accept and be okay with it? The journey, as we kind of wrap up this talk, I just want to reiterate some of the principles. The journey that we go through is trying to control our life at every single moment. So trying to unlearn that and just be okay with the life as it's happening is not going to be easy, but it is a journey that you need to remind yourself of every moment. And it should go hand in hand with your meditation. Don't fall into the self-righteousness principle. It doesn't serve you. It's not helping you get closer to happiness. In fact, it's actually just making it harder for you to finally do what you need to do, which is accept the situation. And try and use these moments, small little moments in our day where we can practice to be a little bit more aligned with ourselves, with no stakes, as practice grounds, like we use meditation as a practice ground to be more present in our daily lives. Try and use small micro moments that we would usually get annoyed or usually get frustrated to bring a little bit more presence and happiness in our interactions. I say this, bringing all this together, going, what is the point of what we're trying to do at all in life? It should be back of your mind. And for me, that question is to be joyful. I want to be joyful every moment of every day. And if that is your goal, then you need to ask yourself, what is the reality of people? What is the reality of myself? And how can I actually live in a way that is going to maximize my happiness? And acceptance is truly one of the biggest pillars of that. With that, I just wanted to say thank you everybody again for joining me on this morning meditation session. And I look forward to the rest of the BYM retreat. If you're speaking, I can't hear anything.
Nikhil, can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you now.
Okay. So, first of all, a big round of applause that we gave you.
Yeah.
I don't know what to say, Nikhil. Though whatever you say, I do understand, I did know, but I felt like I was listening to everything for the first time again. This is what is the beauty of self-discovery journey. Every time you think you know everything, and then when you start listening to it, it's like, oh my God, oh my God. And I'm being so honest that I enjoyed every second of what I heard. I mean, this is my personal feedback to you. And what I loved the best was the example that you gave about a father and a child. I think that example alone can do wonders with every one of us. Easy to remember. And such an easy example where you have clearly shown the power of empowerment. We all talk empowerment, but here you explain what empowerment is by understanding that the other person is not emotionally evolved. I am more empowered and I can let them go. Yesterday we talked about spirituality, Nikhil, and we talked about spirituality is letting go. Letting go is difficult, but we have to practice. But today you took that topic of mine of yesterday one more step ahead by saying how to let go, the act of empowerment. So honestly, my dear friends, I think we didn't plan this way. I didn't even know what Nikhil was going to talk about. But this is an extension to what we talked last night. We talked about letting go. And here is a beautiful example and a practice of how to let go. I mean, leave the rest of the topic is so much you have said, Nikhil, but that one example is my takeaway that I have learned is that empowerment. We all have the ability and the power to empower ourselves by saying, I can do this. Maybe the other person can't. And same example, you can always visualize the other person as a child. Why not? And say that they are not emotionally mature, but you are. And nobody can steal this power away from you. So, honestly, Nikhil, thank you very much for bringing. You always come here and bring a different perspective to the whole game. Even last year, the topic you brought, it was so helpful for all of us. So I think I've spoken enough. But Nikhil, if you have some time, I would be happy if you can take some Q&As if there are questions. Is that all right?
Yeah, most definitely.
Okay. I think, Leela, I will hand over this mic to you. And Nikhil, this session was specially requested by Leela Madam, so I'm giving this mic to her. You can go around for the Q&A.
First of all, thank you so much, Nikhil sir, for joining us and sharing your knowledge. Because very first retreat you spoke about surrender. I still remember the examples you have given, which really helped me. And the second retreat you spoke about letting go, art of letting go. And this retreat you are talking about acceptance. All these topics with detailed examples are really helping us. A very coincident thing is yesterday ma'am spoke about all these topics and we at lunchtime, me and Vimala was talking about the same thing, acceptance. There are situations in our life, especially, when people are innermost circle people, especially our partner or kids, when they are saying something hurtful words or unable to accept their behavior, this is where the pain is coming up. We are not able to accept them who they are at those painful moments. If the same word is coming from anybody other than inner circle people, we won't take it so personal. So that's where the struggle is, especially people like me have many young children. Most of us are facing in this time, like we are facing a lot of challenges with the young children because gadgets are something like ruining their time. And how much ever we try to explain them, they are unable to understand the gaming time or the behavior or the language, especially. Because they're rising in this country, right? They see everything. They don't know what is good, what is bad. They're just copycat. They're using same words. It is something painful to us. And the other challenge is like, as we stepped into spiritual journey, we are learning a lot of good concepts from ma'am and masters in the books. We wanted to apply to them. We wanted to nurture them. We wanted to share with them. Sometimes they may not listen. For them, it is boring sometimes. That's where the pain is also. We feel like, oh my God, 30s, I opened my eyes like this. How beautiful if they can learn this concept, they can apply in education. They can do wonders. They can easily go with the life challenges. With that expectation also, sometimes it gives pain to us. But yeah, pretty much you covered many things, but you give us little more tips and techniques how to surpass all these things. That will be helpful for us. Thank you.
Sure. Thank you so much again. As I think you addressed the point very well. As I said, the challenges when it comes to people who are in your inner circle, who you deal with, then I want to reiterate, like it's easy for me to get up here and say these things, but the reality is, even in my life, the challenge is actually applying that consistently. And you go through ebbs and flows where I get lost into my own emotions sometimes, and then I take a moment and I'm like, wait, why am I doing this? And I try and pull myself back. And it's not like a switch that you're going to flip overnight and suddenly you're going to be like some Zen monk that is completely disconnected. But instead, it is getting better at catching yourself and pulling yourself back. Like there's the times to pull yourself back in become shorter and shorter, and you get better at flexing that muscle, even with your inner circle. the challenge is that you kind of described are not unique to, I think, you guys or any sort of even a parent-child relationship. I think it's the same challenge. It's that, if I heard correctly, like you have expectations around how they should act in a particular way, and you might be completely right, because honestly, they're probably children. They don't actually know how to use their time, and you obviously want to do what's best for them, and you parents raised you in a certain way, and there's all these things. It comes back to the righteousness acceptance conversation. You are completely right. Let's just start there. I'm not even gonna question whether you're right or wrong. You are completely right that your children are using their time poorly. You have expectations that they should do something differently. And obviously there's going to be conflict because they weren't born in the same time, same era, technologies changed. They're living life very differently to the way that you guys were. And it's not about parent and children, but that's just how everybody is. Every person has a different lived experience. So no two people are going to come to the same conclusion on anything. The challenge is, and I think the best way to go about it is, can you depersonalize yourself from the moment while still giving the message that you want to give? So for example, in your case, if them not acting in the way that you want them to act is causing you to be miserable, frustrated, stressed, depressed, whatever it is, that's a problem. That's not their problem, that's your problem, because now you have lost your happiness. And you're not going to be able to be a good parent, a good partner, a good anything if you aren't centered in yourself. At the same time, I'm not saying don't give this advice to your children and let them do whatever they want, but it's about, can you still be happy even when they say no? Even when they rebel and they do whatever they want to do, can you still keep your peace? And really, it's like a patient, loving figure is kind of the way it seems. You tell them, they do something, they shout at you, they will do whatever it is. You let it brush past you. You tell them again because you love them. Hey, tell them the next day. They'll probably shout at you again. Tell them the day after that. As long as you have your cool in you, what difference does it make? And it's just the whole brushing it off and just recognizing that it's not them being bad people or you being bad people. It's just that they don't know how to channel their emotions in any other way, so it comes out that way. Do you have the strength to accept it? Do you have the strength to let their emotional energy pass through you and still be able to share whatever it is that you want to share? That is the struggle, because if you get emotionally charged and you get depressed, A, you're losing your own happiness. And B, the good that you wanted to do for them, you're not going to be able to do it. If you're angry, if you're depressed, whatever message you're trying to communicate to them for their well-being, you're not going to be able to communicate that in a way that they will receive it if you're not grounded. And honestly, there is a possibility that even if you are grounded and you let their emotional energy pass through you and you tell them patiently, you tell them consistently every single day, they may still not listen to a word that you say. And unfortunately, that is the reality of life. Can you be okay with it? I'm not here to give specific advice on raising children, but the question is, can you be okay with it? Because this doesn't just apply to children, it applies to everybody. Even if, and this is the thing, people think of acceptance as if you do all the right things, then things are going to change. No, what I'm telling you is, even if you do everything correctly, people around you might not change, but what I'm saying will happen is that you will be happy despite it. Even if your children don't get into the school that you want to get into because they screwed up their education, they will have to live with that, but you will be happy. And I know that's hard to say, and I know when I'm a parent, this advice that I'm giving you, it will be so hard for me to accept, because I'll be like, no, how could I let my children go that way? I know this. That's why it's easier for me to say this, but it doesn't change the journey that can you be okay, even if things don't go your way.
Thank you, Nikhil sir. The wonderful session. This retreat wouldn't complete without your session as usual. And someday maybe we will see you in person as well to our retreat. That's what I just was telling you.
Definitely.
And during the session, I also reminded all the Science of Happiness series, which we did in English, and I was trying to do it in Telugu.
Yeah,
There were
good job,
multiple
good job,
sessions.
Bernadette, good job.
Thank you. And doing nothing. Recently only I was doing that in Telugu, doing nothing. It's very, very difficult to do nothing because you're always trying to do something. And sometimes many things. You don't want to do one thing at a time, you want to do multiple things because our mind is addicted that way. And sometimes I also throw this challenge to my friends as well, like do nothing, don't do nothing. Because here we have so many things to do, so many things pile up. So there's no time where we just sit down and do nothing. At least you want to watch a TV or do something, do look at mobile or something, but we don't have that moments where we do nothing. And one of the things we as the meditators have is that okay, we sit down and see, and then sometimes we have a body mind as well. So yeah, that's one of the things which we are going to like working out and doing nothing. Also like the what Leela ma'am was asking about. Uh, yeah, sometimes it works this way where if it is some other case, not your case, and the way you deal with them will be with more love, more even if they don't listen to us, it's okay. So yeah, I remember what Sarojamam was one day that try this out, bring this regarding awareness that think if it is some other's cat is jumping on some other's wall, you would react differently, and that is like you are wall. At least you are owning like that. And also, I have seen this where the grandparents, right? Like grandparents would deal with the uh, uh, kids differently than parents. They would be more okay, fine, that's your time. But when they were parents, they are different. Not grandparents, they will not be that. When there is love, definitely there is more love as a parent. But yeah, that's what I think. That attachment is what I think we should treat our kids ourselves, not our kids.
That's a really good point.
Yes. Yeah, but at the moment, we definitely get it over. They are not behaving the way we want. But still, we are trying to practice that. Thank you, Nikhil, sir.
Thank you so much. Actually, on that point, as you're saying that, I was just thinking the there is actually a really important moment of acceptance here, even as a parent. And I say this as I'm saying this that when I have kids, that it will be a challenge for me to implement, but it's easier for me to give advice here. The fear about your children is two things. It's you want them to live a good life, which is a natural desire for a parent, and you want to set them up well. But there is also a fear that you're not willing to confront that what if my children don't do well? Especially if when you're seeing all the other friends' children becoming engineers, doctors, lawyers, bankers, whatever it is, you are worried that your child will be left behind, and for them, what will happen? And obviously, as parents, you want to do everything you can to give your child an amazing life. But there is an acceptance question here. Can you, as a parent, be okay if your child does not do well in the ways that you want them to? If your child, whatever reason, they may have medical conditions, they may just not enjoy this, they may do their best and fail, they may not put in any effort and fail because they have no interest. There could be 100 reasons. And if that doesn't happen, and whatever it is that these things that expectations you have around your children, which are good expectations to have as a parent, the question is, can you be okay when things don't go bad, when things go bad or things don't go the way that you want them to? And I think that is hard for any parent. I would say even for my own parents, it's you want the best for your children. So that dichotomy between doing whatever it takes to help them is in almost constant conflict with acceptance of can I be okay with anything happening? But I think there is a balance in between where you can still be amazing, supportive parents and give them all the opportunities and push them in the right direction while being okay if things don't go the way that you want them to.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Nikhil. Probably we will highlight that line, like, whatever happens in life, will I be happy? Will I be okay? Bold letters, I'll keep it and remind myself. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Nikhil ji. Good morning, everyone. I'm here exactly for that, whatever discussions going on. So, it's all about parenting for me. That's what brought me here, to be honest with. So, it's all coming from the urge as a parent to give the best to them, to make them, best in this world. But what I understood recently with my two boys is they are like two different directions. So, okay. So the parenting style I adapted for my first one was not working with my second one. And my second one, I'm still figuring out. To be honest, he is 4 now. I'm still figuring out how to deal with him. And the acceptance is some things that I'm learning now because as a parent, sometimes the way we show our anger or frustration or disappointment is definitely disturbing them in a way with their confidence level. Even though they are the best, they think, it sometimes indirectly make them think, oh, what my mother thinks about me if I'm not doing that, what my father will think. So definitely here the acceptance is going to help them. I'm still working on it, but still it's really hard, I tell you. Because yesterday night, I just I take quick 1 minute to just give a live example. Yesterday night evening when I was in a dinner table, my 4-year-old was passing a really bad tantrum and he was shouting. Every people were just looking at him. And that moment, I accepted him because I know the whole night we traveled. The whole night we are from Sydney, we are here. So the whole night we were in car and he slept nicely, but still he was sitting and sleeping, right? So he was tired. He was not ready to sleep in the afternoon. He was excited, of course. So, but in the evening, he got exhausted and he wanted to sleep, but still he wanted to be here with all of us. So that was bringing some kind of exhaustion and frustration, and he was shouting. I accepted that. But that moment, I was fearing for the judgment from all the other people here, what they will think about me as a parent. That fear of judgment is something really, really disturbing me whenever, I see them not failing, not meeting to the society's norms, not meeting to the parents' standard we are setting as a parent. Definitely the way you told it, I was so astonished, like for the way you talked about like more than like sorry to say that, but that is fact. The way you delivered, oh my God, it's so saintly. And I could take every piece of your advice from the way you delivered it because it was so calm, composed, and there was no disturbance. There was no doubts in the way you delivered it. So I was so glad and grateful to be here to get that acceptance. So that's something. And then the sir was mentioning, like, see your parent as a third person. Sorry, see your kid as a third person, not your kid. He's
Yeah.
Oh, that's something I'm going to take with me because sometimes my son used to tell if I arrange for a play date, if he is being cheeky, the way I tell him like sorry, don't do that. And if the other kid is doing that, maybe Shiva or something. So I just take the name Shiva. Shiva, please don't do that now. So every time my son picks this up, he'll come and tell me, you don't love me. You love Shiva only. And I was like, so somewhere I'm taking him for granted. And that is something I'm working on. I am going to see my kids as an individual soul. They are like individual soul. They are like here for their soul evolution, and I have to just be there to support them. This is I'm telling it. I'm reading so many books on parenting. I'm attending so many parenting sessions. I'm telling it, but I'm still work in progress. I couldn't achieve it. I mean, until now, I'm still working on. But I will definitely be there for them. I will, open up all the opportunities for them, and I'll wait and see whichever opportunity they are picking up for their life evolution or soul evolution. I just want to be there without any frustration or disappointment, and just to live my life peacefully. So that's I have to find different job with my own salary. And thank you, thank you. And the way you deliver today was boost coming moment for me, because that is what for I'm here. I'm going to take this with me.
I'm so honored.
And thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hope you have some time, Nikhil. We're not taking too much of your time, right?
Yes, go ahead. No problem. I have time.
Thank you, thank you.
Hello, Nikhil. Thank you so much for a wonderful session. My question is, I've been in spirituality for 2.5 years now. And what I have learned and understood, and personally for me, it's easier to accept others. It's easier to forgive others. But when it comes to myself, if I have done something wrong, it's very, very hard. Like yesterday, I take a medicine and we are 2 hours drive from here. And I asked my son to pick up the stuff and put it in the car, and he forget. And in that moment, I was so angry. And so I was thinking, like, I'm learning how when I'm angry and I did, slap him in that moment, how to accept that now for myself that I've done that. Like, it puts me in guilt that I shouldn't have done. I should have controlled. It was just a medicine. He went back and this and that. But when there are moments like this, can you give any tips for acceptance for yourself when you have done something what you shouldn't have? Thank you.
Thank you so much. That's a really, really good question. I'm glad you brought that up. Firstly, I'd say if you find it, if acceptance with yourself is your biggest problem, then you're already in a very good place, because I feel for most people, I think acceptance of others is really the biggest challenge, and then acceptance of self. I honestly find an easier problem to deal with in the long term, because it's a one-on-one relationship. But it is also such a key part of your overall happiness. To answer your question, I'm going to be very direct with something that I think about, and this is how I deal with. There is going to be things that you do in your life that you're guilty about, you're embarrassed about, you regret. Anything that creates those negative emotions, we've all done it at some point. All I ask myself is this: can I change what happened? If I can, because sometimes the event is not finished, it's still ongoing. If I can, great, go do it. Whatever I need to do in this moment, I'm going to go do what I need to do to fix this. Imagine if I said something embarrassing in front of a crowd of people. If I still have the opportunity, instead of just sitting there cowering, I'm going to go and clarify, sorry, I didn't mean to say that. This is what I meant to say, and try and recover the situation. If I'm guilty about doing something, I will go and apologize to somebody else and do my piece. But if that moment has passed, or I've already done those things, and I'm still struggling to accept that moment, question you have to ask: can you change what happened? Is there something for you to do to change what happened? If the answer is no, then you are faced again. You said you're just joined the spiritual path. Spirituality, as I said earlier, is accepting truths. That's all it is. It's looking at your life and looking at life itself and going, what are undeniable truths? And how do I live by those undeniable truths? And one of the most undeniable truth is what's happened has happened. You cannot, nothing you do think, no matter how much you feel guilty about something and no matter how much you are sad about something, it will not change something that has happened. Something that has happened, and there's nothing you can do to change it. Now, again, we talked about talking to people as a third person. We said you're treating your kids as a third person. I want you to treat yourself as a third person. If somebody comes up to you and says, hey, I did this terrible thing 10 years ago. There's nothing that I can do to change it. It happened. And for 10 years, I've been holding this in and I'm feeling terrible about myself. And every day I wake up and I feel guilty and I hate myself for it. What would you tell that person? You would tell that person, hey, there's nothing you can do to change it. It happened. You obviously feel that if you were to do that situation again, would you do it the same way? They'll be like, no, I wouldn't do it. For 10 years, I feel guilty about it. Then you'll be like, great, you've learned from it. And there's nothing you can do to change it. So why do you keep resisting it? And this comes back to, this is nothing like scientific or special that I'm saying. I'm just giving you just basic reality of how I talk to myself when I'm in these moments. I ask myself, can I change it? No, I talk to myself in the third person. No matter how embarrassed I might be, no matter how angry I might be, no matter how ashamed I might be, how guilty I might be, I can't change what I've done. So my only two choices are keep reminding myself all these negative feelings every day of my life and make myself miserable, or just accept it. It is what it is. That's what acceptance is. It is what it is. There's nothing you can do. You weren't a great person. You behaved badly. You were embarrassing. You were rude. Whatever it is. Can you live with yourself and move on? This is a question that, there, I think, interesting biographies to read about people who have committed like heinous crimes, for example. Somebody might have robbed somebody or killed somebody or, in a heated moment. Emotions were high, something happened. That person has to live with the guilt of killing somebody for the rest of their life. But there's also this point of going, imagine if you didn't mean to do it and it was an accident. How long will you live with your life not accepting what's happened? At some point, and I use this as an extreme example to show you how universally applicable it is, but it applies to those micro moments you're describing. Can you accept what's happened? Because you can't change it. It's happened. So now that's all that's left is you either holding on to this and resisting this and not letting that energy pass through you, or just going, yes, I did this. I was the person who did that, but that doesn't change who I am. Being guilty about it doesn't serve you. Being ashamed about it doesn't serve you. And honestly, society sometimes tells us that we should be. Guilt is very helpful to help us improve and make sure, hey, I shouldn't have done that. If you've already taken away that learning and you described to me in that example that you seem to have, then there's no point of being guilty anymore. It's not helping you. It's not helping anybody else around you. And it's just making you get stuck in this moment that has already passed. Come back to, can you change what's happened? If not, what is the point of holding it? And ask yourself that as a third person. And it's not easy to accept, but it is the thing that helps me every single time I'm stuck in one of these situations. Slowly let go.
In that question.
Nikhil, great to see you again. Hi. I have four takeaways, I think, from today's session from you. I think your clarity, as usual, always fantastic. First one is happiness. And the second one is let go. And the third one is acceptance. I think I personal experience, I listen every word. I think what we said very carefully, as Mom said, just I put my shoes in I think he just, what you rightly said, I don't want to give my happiness stick to someone else, just within me. As you rightly said, I think we condition in such a way, and because I think things not in your control, which you can't do much about it. You better change yourself the way to get your home or workplace or anywhere. I think that's I probably last 5, 6 years, maybe I started practicing for it proactively. It's working and it feels better and it makes me a better person and my relationships are getting better. And the second thing I think you said about your children, exactly every parent does the same thing. My son is almost a Nikhil son, Nikhil. So I can reflect what Nikhil was talking every word. I think the best thing, if the children anything next me, just apologize. If there is no such thing, right or wrong answer. If your perspective, my perspective, I could be right, but the other side, what they are going through, we don't know. Why they are behaving. Even the 20 or 30 doesn't matter, their journey is different. So I think the last 2 years or 6 months, I think maybe since maybe I think at 4 years, I think I spoke to you, man. So then we changed, and Auntie and I think we are so happy now in the sense, and let go, and it doesn't matter. And his life is nothing wrong with my son. I'm not saying that. So maybe people may be thinking I'm something wrong. Because the reason is why I'm sharing this experience, it might be helpful to someone. Because when I got another one son, when their adult life and they move around once they're married, it's as parent, the distance at on some point, it reaches a point, again, you need an acceptance. This is what it is on the table. When I take it, make it. I'm so thankful to my wife. Actually, this is the opportunity to thank you. The reason being, there are two things in my side. They make myself miserable or make myself happy. So which path you want to take? Simple. Because he thinks, she thinks, it doesn't matter, who cares? And other is my life. People, you think it does give anything better, yield anything to it? No. And it's me. It's all about me, makes me happy. So I think, the acceptance is so good, Nikhil. I'm so thankful. And every word what you said, I had no one money to family thing, whatever it's. So it makes my day, it's actually on the right path. And now I think last 1 year, 6 months maybe, and with the new process, new person in the family and everything, what we are going to and we gone to next level. And exactly every word, what you said, I think somewhere, I don't know, it's just we have been following indirectly and we are so happy. And that's one of the reasons maybe we are make ourselves available to, to opportunity to attend this retreat and we are so enjoying. Thank you. Thank you.
So much for sharing.
You have some more time, Nikhil, or
Yeah, go for it.
thank you. Hi, Nikhil. I'm okay. I think somehow we are just focusing only on parenting. It's not just about it's not just about addressing only the kids, even the husbands, colleagues, everything, right? So actually, my
Yeah.
kind of favorite subject, the inner journey. Actually, it's all connect back to Sakshi session, right, ma'am? So when Leela said that something is not good here, so we are trying to fix outside, right? That's where our samskara is coming in, and yeah, it's not making us comfortable. Yeah, actually, my inner journey from last 1 year, actually, I'm dealing with two teenagers who is in 15 years and 13 years old, 38 to 30. So, hope you can understand how harassing it will be to get registered. And also, my husband is also one more teenager, but he's also very hyper, very, very hyper. So I'm trying to deal with three hyper kids, I would say, totally opposite to my nature. So what actually is working? So my inner journey started with my elder one. How do I accept him the way he is? He's grown up in Australia and we are brought up in India, so the mindsets are totally different. And the way I think is different from the way he thinks. So what actually is working for me is I actually have started understanding three dimensions of my own self. So one is dreams, the dream side that we see, and the meditation, whatever the experiences we have, and the reality, the physical world. See, in the meditation, whatever we see, we just accept it. Even if a devil come, we accept. Even if the devil come, we accept. Right? We accept everything. Even in meditating, sleep also, we accept everything because we don't have any control there. Our mind is not there in deep sleep, and even our mind is not there in meditation. But only when it comes to the real world, we have our mind. That is the only one which want all these things to be changed. So when I understood this concept very clearly, that I'm not the mind, I'm constantly making sure that my inner core understand that the mind want all these changes. It's not me. Right? From there, actually, I was able to accept everything, whatever is coming in my life, it's anything, it's a colleagues or anything that comes, actually, I'm able to accept that. Whatever, even sometimes I go upset, it's not that 100% I'm able to accept it, but I make sure if I have to fight, I'll fight 100%. And immediately I check whether am I happy or not. I'm able to understand that my core happiness, it's untouched because I understand that I'm not mine, I'm not that emotions, I'm something. I'm just came out of that Sakshi. That Sakshi Mama, it has taken it a different level. Every practice that whatever the steps that you have given is there. The layers, when we started unpeeling all those layers, we can clearly see that we are not the mind, not the emotions, just sit there and observe. And to get this confirmation, I was just trying to compare all this meditation, dream experiences, and all. Then I understood, okay, it's all the mind game. Nothing. There is nothing to for me. Okay, just accept, sit there. And it's not that if my son is going in the wrong direction, I just sit there and accept it. I tell him 100% whatever I have to tell. I tell him 100%. And I also make sure he understand that his life is in his hand. And tomorrow he should not come back and say, Ma, you didn't guide me properly, right? So I make sure that your life is in your hand. It's for both the kids, even for my husband also. He's not happy with something else. I would get influenced with him. I make sure that, okay, if you're not happy with someone, okay, you be there. Okay, but I'm happy there. Okay. So this is what I'm just making sure that everyone have that proper boundaries and also understand that yeah, their life is their samskaras, it is my samskaras to accept and it is there. It's very important to balance everything. Thank you. Without this, I don't think so. We can save the rest of the world. Thank you so much.
How to live a true karma yoga you have explained.
Thank you.
Hi Nikhil, this is Lavanya. So it was quite an inspiring session today. I really enjoy thoroughly your sessions whenever you do this, especially in the mornings after a meditation. We're all are so fresh and we're able to grasp how much ever one can grasp. It's up to their capacity. So every time I cherish this moment, especially so we all normally request your session compulsory in our retreat because we see it's not just us because we are taking this, there's a ripple effect. We take this and we just go and implement in some other way. So I'm coming from you because you're still an youngster. So we know, okay, what's the real environment is, what the kids are facing now. So it's so real because from the time we were born and we are raised, it's completely different as you just mentioned. So, and thank you for taking out your time. So when I was just thinking like when I was driving through, I was seeing the nature around, and throughout my drive, I saw okay, there were weeds, but those weeds have got the flowers, and they were looking so serene. The environment looked so serene. I was just wondering, okay, if I see those weeds at my home, I feel like okay, I need to garden it, I need to pick it because I have that control. But here, I just let go the control. So I was thinking because I'm accepting this, so that's the reason I'm viewing that as an beautiful thing, as a serene thing. And I was so happy when I was looking at those beautiful colors. That's why I was thinking, okay, just my perspective, when I just change my perspective, everything changes. This is what Saroja ma'am takes every session. It keeps telling us to reinforce this. But when I saw that as as an example, I don't give that kind of, what do you say, in a normal mundane routine. We don't give attention to these kind of things which we do when we're going on a leisure drive. So I was so happy coming to this retreat. So as in everything I was accepting. So that's what I thought. And after I've come here, all the sessions are about acceptance, let go, surrender. And so I really enjoyed thoroughly, Nikhil, today's session. And thank you a lot. Yeah.
Much.
The golden opportunity. So one more question. Sorry.
I'm Kalyani. Thank you. And just a question, extension to my husband's. He talked about, how to deal with as a parent. It is related to parenting. To give a bit of context, he was married to a different culture, girl from a different culture. So it's a bit of tough time, I think, to handle things like in a way about the boundaries, like, how to, sometimes due to our cultural background, we do certain things and then it can be a little bit overwhelming to the other people. And so it's a constant sort of a struggle for us as a parent. So do you have any solutions for that? Like we are trying to do as trying to accept things, but I don't know whether it is the right way to do. And then at the end of the day, they have to be happy and we have to be happy. That's the thing, like we always think. But sometimes little things, micro movements, as you said, they can creep in and then upset. It's a normal way of life, I guess. But do you have any suggestions for that? Like, how we can improve? Thank you.
Sure. As I said, I think this is not specific to that situation, but it's really about when there is friction anywhere with your children, with partners, with anybody in society, you just need to do what you act from a place of love, from a place of empowerment within yourself.
Yeah.
How other people perceive your actions is really not like your concern. Obviously, if somebody communicates with you, then you can talk through that. But I just think about it as if you're going on a street and you saw a jacket on the ground, I'm just picking this up as an example, and you hand that jacket to somebody, and that's somebody, because you think they dropped it. Imagine that person starts yelling at you, going, "No, I wanted that jacket on the ground. I didn't want you to pick it up. Why'd you pick it up?" And you could either sit there going, my day is ruined, I'm a terrible person, etc., or you could just think, hey, I was trying to do it to be nice. I know I'm a good person. That person didn't receive it that way, and move on with your day and don't think about it again. That's how every sort of, it comes back to the acceptance thing we're talking. If people don't react the way that you expect them to react, are you going to be miserable or are you going to be okay with yourself?
Yeah.
And if you are acting in a way that's true to yourself, then you should be okay with you, regardless of how people around you are reacting to that.
Yeah, sometimes because of our conditioning, I guess, like we always condition such a way that, children are our extension or something, our identity creeping to the, I think that could be the reason. Like sometimes
without knowing, we take it for, like, we think that they are part of us or do things like, it's very hard to separate them as an individual person, I guess. Like, we are still on that journey. Like, they're separate, they are separate individuals, they have their own life, and then we are separate, and then our goal is different. As you said, like, whether we wanted to be miserable or happy, and then this is not like, it's a constant journey. So that's why, like, your tips are really, really helpful. Like, they are really reinforced, like, our sort of practice. Yeah. Thank you very much, Faith.
Welcome.
First of all, give her a big round of applause and thank you the reason why. It is not easy for any mother to stand up here and talk what she did. That is what the courage I need. Why do we hold retreat? Not to have this boundaries thinking, my story is my story, I'll keep it close to the heart and check out how others are going. No. Spiritual retreat are something that we need to benefit from, and only when we open up, that connections develop. I'm very proud. Kalyani is coming here for the first time to this retreat, and yet took the advantage of the situation completely. And what she spoke is applicable to everyone, if not everyone, at least 90%, about things that happen with children. There are a lot of mothers here. Hats off to you, Kalyani. I really have to say that. Jyoti coming here and talking is a little bit different. She's been here, she knows people, she has that comfort, and many others. Just for example. But talking about her own children is never easy. But for parents, that letting go and acceptance is easy with everybody. When it comes to your children, I mean, we'll talk about spouse another day because that's another can of worms. I don't want to that. If we just keep it to children, then for a mother or a father, that is the most difficult part of letting go or acceptance. And if it makes anyone feel better, just on the lighter side, it may be on the lighter side, but my mom always used to remind, because there's a lot of parenting things going on, nothing personal for children, but this is what the age-old belief is. Your enemies from previous incarnation come to you as children. So, it's something that you can't avoid. So your karma, that enemy has to come. I mean, it is lighter side, but remember, you have to go through that. There is nothing you can do. And they are teaching you a lesson of biggest spirituality. Yes, no matter what I do, you have no choice. You have to let go. So, I mean, I know this is on lighter side. My mother used to say, Shatrule Pillaga Bodhai. So, good revenge. Yeah, but looking from spiritual perspective, they are letting you grow.
Yes.
They're letting you learn. Nowhere else you will learn. If Jyoti started doing what my children did, I said, get lost. I mean, I may not use the same words, but I can. But I cannot run away from my children. I can't. I have to stand there and go through the ordeal.
Yeah.
What happens with that?
For us,
Isn't it?
we do it all.
Yeah. So what is happening in this process? Yes, lot of turmoil, torture. But when you start understanding the bigger picture, which we always talk in spiritual parenting, our spiritual parenting sessions are all about this. If you people have not attended spiritual parenting, especially for people like you, start attending. Because if parenting is so close to your heart, then I think it's worth spending 1 hour every month to understand. And there are workshops coming very soon. So people take information. Today, Navina is going to talk about the spiritual parenting because for parents, as Kalyani rightly said, we can't see them different. They are an extension. In other words, they are a part of us. It's very difficult. And hence, you have no choice but to let go. You can't disown them. Can you disown them like every other person on the earth? You can't. You have to live with them, even if you are not physically living with them. You have to emotionally live with them as long as you are alive. Full stop. So what do you do then? It's a forced lesson of spirituality. So on one hand, I'm saying, enemies, but no, they are your well-wishers. Out of love, they have come to you. They have chosen you as parents because they are giving you an opportunity to grow. So I think the best lesson of spirituality you learn only through children, but no one else, because no choice of disowning. So the only choice you have is to accept and let go. I know I just wanted to make this a little bit lighter, but that's the truth. Yes, Nikhil, that was on the lighter side. Thank you.
That's true.
I said that's
behalf of the entire team, Nikhil sir, thank you so much from our heart. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
We're looking forward to have you in person next year. Please plan accordingly. Thank you.